Hey there guys, and welcome back. On this week's show, part 2 of our Zen Garden. Well, on last week's show, our Zen Garden was going along just fine, but then we ran out of time. So on this week's show, we're going to continue. There's a lot of fun processes on this week's show, and it all starts with some templates and some 3/4 inch thick pine. Well, using 1/8 MDF or hardboard, I have cut out this it's kind of a mystical tree trunk kind of thing. So I'm going to cut this out on the scroll saw. Once I draw it out here, I'm going to cut 3 of them. And when I get them all cut, I'll come back and I'll see you. With our 3 trunks cut, I will now apply some wood glue, and we want to laminate them all together. Ideally, I would have liked to do this out of 1 piece of wood, but you know what, I'm okay with laminating. So we'll glue these together, clamp them up, and let them completely dry, preferably overnight. Well, it's the next day and our tree is all dried up. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take it over to the belt sander and we're going to level out this bottom. Well, this is a part of the project I've been looking forward to, as now we get to carve our tree. And for that, I'm going to be using my power carver. You can use anything you like. You can use sanding drums at your drill press. You can use a Dremel tool. You can use carving tools and just carve it by hand. But what we're going to do is we're going to carve it out in whatever shape that we see, that we like, and that fits. And I guess I'll see you when I get it done. Well, I guess we got a little too aggressive with our bit choice for carving the tip. It's really too bad. The tree was looking great. You know, I think it's salvageable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue this back up as best I can, line it up, and clamp it together, let it fully dry, and then we'll change the bit to a less aggressive one, and we will, well, I guess we'll continue to carve it after that. While we're waiting for the tree to dry up, I've also cut out some other branches out of 3/4 inch pine, and I will use a less aggressive bit, and we will carve these down to their final shape. And there we have one branch carved. I'm going to carry on. You don't need a video of me carving all of these branches, but I am going to carve the rest of these, and I will see you when I get all of that done. With all of the other branches carved, I guess there's really nothing left to do but to wait for the glue to dry on the main trunk. Well, here it is a week later, and we're going to give this a second shot. I have a much less aggressive burr in my power carver. The glue is dried up. Now, I'm not going to worry about the mishap with my piece from last week. Even professionals make mistakes. I'm no professional, but I make mistakes just like anybody else. Making mistakes in the shop, in this case, choosing a burr that is way too aggressive for what I was doing. Making a mistake is inevitable. Not learning from it is foolish. So I've reduced the aggressiveness of the burr, and then as well as the safety glasses, dust mask, and dust collection that I would use normally, I'm adding finger protection carving tape for my fingertips, and as well a face shield. Seeing the video of how violent that grabbed and how quickly it happened, I'm going to protect myself as much as I can, and we will carry on with carving our tree trunk. Well, once you're happy with the trunk of your tree, it's a little rough right now, but we're going to go around and add all of our other branch pieces onto our tree. Now you're going to have to do some custom fitting here because we've carved away some of our branches and that sort of thing. So custom fit it, shape it, and glue your branches in place so that we end up with a tree at the end of it. Well, after all of the power carving and the gluing on the branches, I've ended up with something that looks like this. Kind of a whimsical tree. I'm not really happy with some of the transitions of the branches where they're glued on. Although they fit well, they look like they're glued on. So I'm just going to take some light burrs, possibly either a diamond burr or some sanding drums in the power carver, and I'm going to smooth out some of these transitions to make them look a little more natural. Well, I cleaned up the majority of the transitions that I could get at with the sanding burr, etc. And now comes a little bit of fun. I really don't want this just plain white tree. I really don't. I would like something a little more interesting. So most normal people wouldn't do this, but I'm going to light it on fire and see what happens. And maybe we can introduce some color into that wood in the form of burning. So I'm just going to use one of my welding gloves here, just in case I slip with the torch. Rather burn the glove that's meant to take the heat than my hand. And let's just see how this goes. That looks awesome. I love it. All right. Well, now, I guess we can get this glued into our Zen Garden. Well, in the downtime with this project, while I was waiting for our tree to glue back up and that sort of thing, I applied a finish of Danish oil, a couple coats of it, to our Zen Garden itself. It really brings out the beautiful color of that walnut, and it looks fantastic. I will probably still be applying a spray lacquer just to finish the whole thing off, but you just want to choose the position where you'd like your tree. I would suggest trying to keep any branches in over the edge here. You'd hate to have it like this and then you bump this or go to lift it and break this branch off. So better to have the protective edge here of our walnut. So I'm thinking somewhere close to the back, just like that. Probably about there. I'm kind of like in that position there. So just regular wood glue, we're going to glue this thing down and let it set up. Well, the next step in all of this is to make the rake. So the first thing we're going to do is cut the tines of the rake, and for that I'm using some 3/32 inch dowel, and we're going to use our little miter box here and cut 6 lengths that are 11/16 of an inch long. Now you can see here that I have a stop block set up, and That just helps me so I don't have to measure every single piece. One setup and then, you know, save yourself a bit of time. So for the head of the rake, I've taken a piece of 5/16 by 5/16 cherry. It's 1.5 inches long, and on one side, right in the middle, centered both on the length and the width, I've drilled a 3/16 diameter hole. It's about 3/16 of an inch deep. Then I rotated it 90 degrees, and you can see here I have drilled 6 equally spaced 3/32 of an inch diameter holes, and they are 3/16 of an inch deep, and they will house our tines. So for the handle, which is where we're going to start, we need a piece of 3/16 diameter dowel. Now this is maple. You can use whatever you had. I just had this in the little bin for my dowels, and we're just going to glue that into the 3/16 diameter hole that we made. And we'll clean up the squeeze out on that. And now to complete our rake, we will take each tine, and on the one end, which will be our business end, the end that will go through our Zen Garden, we're just going to carefully round off the end of it there, just to take off any sharp corners. Place a little dab of glue on there, and in each one of the 6 holes, we will insert one of our little dowels. And now you want to completely let that set up. And now comes, well, it's all been fun, but this is the extra fun where you get to finish it off. And for me, I'm using in this area things that are a little more personal, such as this jar of sand. This came from a beach, from an old family property that we used to take our children to for vacations during the summer. So that will serve as our sand for this. Oh look, the little maple leaf key there. So we'll just add our sand. You don't need a lot. There we go, just like that. And then we'll just shake it and level it all out. Need some in behind the tree there because the caulking is showing. There we go, look at that. All right, so there is our sand now added to our project. And as well, from mine and my wife's trips to the east coast of Canada, there's been quite a few rocks that we've picked up that we thought were attractive, and we could add a couple of those in here to the garden. Just like that. And these here were some little pieces of driftwood and driftwood sticks that were also picked up on these trips to the local beach in those areas. And we can add those to our garden as well. And now with our rake, if you wish, you can make little trails in the sand just to decorate it a little bit. This sand might be a little too coarse for this rake, but you know what? It just gives it that extra neat little look. And then when you're done, you can just store your rake in your drawer. And there you have it. A Zen Garden. Guys, this project opens it up to all kinds of things. It allows you to use your imagination as much as you want. For example, what if you didn't want to carve that tree? What if you wanted to do an intricate scrolling of a tree and put it in there? What if you didn't want a tree at all? You don't have to. What if there's a favorite skyline of a city that you like? You could scroll out the skyline of the city in silhouette and place it in there. What if you didn't want it to be a Zen garden? How about a memory garden? What I have in here in mine is sand from family vacations from 20 years ago, more than that. But about 20 years ago, I have rocks from vacations with my wife on the east coast of Canada, where my family is from. And I also have sticks from other vacations from that same part of the country. So there's a lot of personal memories in this one. But what if you made this, instead of a Zen garden, what if you made it a memory garden, where you would have a small framed picture of a loved one that's no longer with you, maybe leaning up against the tree, and then certain things in the sand that remind you of them. If they like the beach, maybe there would be some rocks as well. Just that sort of thing. And then in the drawer, as well as storing your rake, you could store little mementos from your time with them while they were here with us on this earth. Maybe little letters, a little postcard that they sent you, a couple photos, that sort of thing. It would be fantastic to have as a memory garden as well. Now I just want to get my phone here because I can't take the credit for this design. This was published in spring of 2009, so 11 years ago, in Scroll Saw Woodworking and Crafts magazine. That would have been issue number 34. And the actual project itself was designed by Carol and Homer Bishop. Now, I contacted or tried to contact Carol and Homer Bishop to inquire as to how I could give you guys a link to purchase the plans or the pattern for this project. And sadly, Mr. Bishop has passed away and is no longer with us. So the company that used to house this pattern on their website, or that used to house Mr. Bishop's patterns, they actually contacted me to inform me of his passing, and their suggestion is really the only way to get a hold of this pattern is to contact the magazine and try to get a back issue of it. I will try to find that link and post it in the description below, but hopefully through what I've done here on the show over the past 2 weeks, hopefully you'll be able to piece it together enough for yourself that you can make your own. The tree is a very artistic thing. It's up to your own imagination as to what you want to do with it. But the main body of the cabinet of this Zen garden or memory garden itself is where you may want these exact dimensions. Guys, this project has been a lot of fun. I've had this on my list of something I've wanted to do for a very long time, and I'm finally getting around to it. It's not because I've been so busy in the shop that I couldn't do it. It's because I have so many magazines that I couldn't remember which one it was in. So I ended up going through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of magazines to find this one design because I was so taken by it and loved it so much. I hope you've enjoyed today's show, guys. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like and subscribe and click that bell so that you don't miss the notifications of future episodes of the show. I want to thank you so much for tuning in. I've had a lot of fun, and I've had a lot of fun bringing it to you, and I hope that you're going to have some fun making this project. And I also hope that you're going to join me again next week when I bring you yet another woodworking video.